Hello, this is Winston Cunningham. It is July the 6th, 2026. And today I'd like to talk about perspective. Perspective is that state of mind that encompasses what we any person can see at this moment. It shows where we are in the process of our own development. So I pay particular attention when I'm talking to other people and when I'm commenting on something that I see. I listen for a different perspective because each person will have a different perspective because no two people are in the same place. So I can get a lot from listening to other people. Mostly it stimulates further questioning. And the question is the most important thing. The next most important thing is finding an answer to that question. And the third most important thing is next question. So that's the whole process. But perspective encompasses all we can see. At the School of Metaphysics, I was introduced to the 10 Most Wanted list, which is a way of developing a sense of proper perspective through the practice of putting things in order of their importance. The number 1 on the list being the most important, number 10 being the 10th most important. And reading over this list daily and adding the purpose and planning an activity to bring this about. This is a good practice that served me well and still does because it helps me to put things into proper perspective. And it is that proper perspective, it is my perspective that leads me to understand more. My perspective at this moment is to continue learning about me, knowing that there's 144,000 different ways of thinking that I need to come to understand, and I've got a ways to go. So each person's opinion encompasses their own perspective. Unless they haven't put attention on any perspective and they're just repeating what they've heard, that's not as useful as asking questions within yourself. It is your own soul that guides you to where to find the answer. That's how I found the School of Metaphysics. I did exactly what Jesus said to do. I asked, but I knew from previous lifetimes, I think, I didn't know this at the time, but now in retrospect, I know that, and I'm pulling a lot from previous lifetimes before, and that's exciting to me because each of us have put in a lot of energy in other lifetimes to learn things, and why cheat ourselves now? We've got all of that to put on, provided we know how to pay attention. And if you work into your perspective, the growth, my perspective is to continue understanding myself in deeper ways, and I'm making a lot of progress. And this as opposed to where someone is in their perspective taken from the consensus of opinion mostly. And that's what AI is based on, is a consensus of opinion. And so, yes, it can be useful, but it's also very limiting. And I just reposted a talk on Facebook today about appeasing limitations. If you haven't heard that, my talk, look at it on the same page you found this. Either We're Valuable Media on Facebook or YouTube at The Next Step, Winston Cunningham. But I explain how verses in the Bible have been changed to match people's belief rather than them doing the work that it takes to understand the original intent, which is presented in pictures. But too many people are still hung up on the words only. And very briefly, and I've talked about this before, God's word means breath. And it is the breath that comes in through the mouth of God, the medulla oblongata, that I'm responsible for using. And at this point, I'm recharging 3 times a week, which I use this procedure and the recharge exercises to create extra energy for myself, which I need. When I was at the school and teaching, School of Metaphysics, and I was teaching, I had a use for this energy, and so I recharged every day. But when I got out of the school, I found out I had a lot more energy than I was prepared to use. So it caused problems, so I had to back off on doing my exercises for a little while. This is powerful stuff. And when you use the powerful stuff, you got to know what you're doing. If you just try to experiment with it, that's usually bad news because you really need a teacher. You really do. Perspective is where I see of what I have come to be. And as I mentioned, previous lifetimes, I didn't know how to appreciate this at the beginning, but I came in with a family where I'd have to be in church a lot, so that I could understand what it was I needed to rise above. It was religion. So it's taken me a long time to come to terms, well, this is because in previous lifetimes I had already been above that. And that's why it didn't make any sense this time, but I had to be in the middle of it to see it. And that's what experience is. But I came into this lifetime with a perspective that I'd built in past lives. And one of my talks is the importance of past lives, because it can give you some insight into what's happening now, even though it's from the past. And I won't go into that here, but look up some of my other talks, and I talk about these things. I'm excited about being here now, and I like where I am. I like what the universe is giving back to me as a result of what I'm giving and making progress. And I see room for a lot more. But I like where I am. I do. And perspective is, I can see my perspective when I'm in a group of people, and I can see a difference in where I am and where they are, and still have respect for where they are. And I enjoy that. I like that. And I normally will have a beneficial exchange with most of the people I talk to. Generally, the people that react to me, what I have to say the most, are those who are limited by their own beliefs. And I just did a talk recently, I reposted a talk I did on pacing limitations, and that's what that's about. And when I mention having risen above religion, I'll get an eyebrow a lot of time, and people had not given any thought there being anything above religion. And that's the danger, and that's what's taught in religion that keeps people buying into their own limitations. That becomes their perspective, their chosen perspective. They chose to put other people in a position to tell them where they are. I prefer going within, and that's what I'm working at doing now. And I'm making a lot of progress. But people hanging around on the surface are just batted from one thing to another. They're like a puppet. Somebody pulls a string over here, and here you are. Somebody pulls a string over here, and there you go. But if you be still and listen within for your answers, then your own soul will guide you wherever you need to be to see what it is that you are ready to see. You got to learn to trust in here, not somewhere else. If you put your faith somewhere else, then you're avoiding your responsibility. The ability to respond, responding to your abilities, responding with your abilities, and developing more ability to respond so that you begin to lean more in the direction of responding rather than reacting. Reacting is a big thing. Responding is an even bigger thing that offsets the reacting. You're either reacting or you're responding. And responding creates much more positivity. Reacting creates more negativity. So you choose what you want. That is a matter of perspective. It is perspective that puts everything together where I can see where I am. And that's the most valuable one. Through my experiences, I can see where I am. And with just a little bit of attention on the past, I can see where I was. And through my imagination, I can see where I can be. But perspective is seeing where I am. And you've heard the words, I am. And you may have been misguided into thinking Jesus was talking about himself. But consider the fact he was talking about I am, which is the God, the light within each one of us, including Jesus. The difference between us and Jesus is he's already mastered this level of consciousness and left instructions for us to do the same thing. And he's on to something greater. And we will be too. He told us that. Perspective is valuable. Perspective, accurate perspective, is gaining a sense of what is. And what is the light. What is the I am expressing through superconscious mind as spirit. And I am expressing through the subconscious mind as soul. And I am expressing through the conscious mind as the conscious ego. This is one that lies to you until you get it switched around like Jesus did when the devil was tempting him in the desert. He said, "Get behind me, Satan." Because he recognized he was going from adolescence to adulthood and spirituality. And so he recognized that the conscious ego was designed to be behind him, pushing him forward, rather than in front of him, holding him back. So this is the point where a person goes from adolescent to adulthood. Read carefully. Go back and read that whole story about Jesus, 40 days in the desert, 40 days and nights. And look at all of the other references of 40. And understand that 4 represents stability, which is the nature of the physical. And the 0 represents understanding. So when you see 1, 0, 2, 3, 4 zeros behind the number, it means there's a more fuller realization of stability. A chair has 4 legs, not 3 or 5. Enough, but not more than necessary. But what is necessary. So you begin to, when you look to develop a proper perspective, a true perspective, an accurate perspective, you can feel it if you're paying attention. And I've learned to feel. I've learned how to use my senses of taste, touch, smell, sound, and sight. I knew there was one more. And the combination of all of those is the 6th sense, which is intuition. Intuition is not the gut feeling. The gut feeling lies to you. That's a physical thing. Intuition comes from the soul, which cannot lie to you. It gives you the truth, whether you're ready for it or whether you want it. Your soul is not in the business of lying to you. Your conscious ego is in the business of lying to you because it is the bastardization of the truth. And so if the conscious ego can keep you confused, then it can elevate itself, the ego, or the misunderstanding of the ego. The ego, I am, is pure ego. Conscious ego is a delusion of that ego. The delusion that makes the president feel like he's the only one that can save us. And some churches even say God sent Trump. Blindness, there was a movement by enough blind people to where Trump said, okay, I see what's going on here. I'll just get in front of it, and they pushed me on forward. So you pushed him up the ladder. So we all have to look up to Trump. How blind were you? Were you one of those blind that needed to be led by a blind president? Listen to my talk on who runs the country. U.S. means us, as in we are running the country, because that's our combined thoughts. I won't explain that here, but go listen to my talk on us, as in we are running the country. It's only about 4 minutes long. Doesn't take long here, but it's a powerful message. It's the truth. Any group of people are governed by the collective consciousness. You'll hear this in many ways from Carl Jung, who had a lot of good stuff, and on forward to at the School of Metaphysics, where things are brought into perspective. If you look at the scriptures in language of mind, and that's available at som.org, there's many books that deal with learning the language of mind, starting with Dr. Barbara Condren's book, The Dreamer's Dictionary. This spells out the language of mind, which is the picture language. Now, that picture language applied to scriptures, with some practice on dreams, you can get good at, when you read the Bible, you begin to get pictures. That's what happened to me. Of course, I was doing concentration, meditation, visualization, all sorts of exercises that expanded my consciousness. It's not a magic thing like, oh, you're enlightened. I know there's stories about that happening. Well, for me, it's taken the last 40 years of work. That's my perspective and what is reality for me. And there's a motorcycle just cranked up, and you can probably hear it. It brings to mind that in order for this person to make that kind of noise, it means that he has no idea how important he is, because he doesn't know that the sound from his vehicle is interfering with anybody else. There's no idea. And most people, too many people, operate from this perspective. At the YMCA, when somebody goes off and leaves the water running after they wash their hands. That's another example. They don't know how important they are. At the School of Metaphysics, they stress the importance of leaving something better than you found it. Make an improvement wherever you step, whatever you touch, whatever you experience with your five senses. See, there's a guy who has no idea about his own importance. But this sound, I understand it. This sound makes him feel more masculine. That's where he is. That is his perspective. Mine is a little different. Perspective is necessary. And everyone on the planet has their own perspective. The perspective shows them where they are. Whether they're paying attention or not is a choice they make. Perspective. Pay attention to your perspective. Put things in the order of their importance. If you only get the number one thing done in a day's time, well, you've done the most important thing. The most important thing is, from your eyes, your perspective, what is the most important thing for you today, for right now, this moment? I love it. Perspective. Proper perspective. Universal perspective. Listen to my talk on me and the universe. The universe is my buddy, because it gives to me according to how I give. It gives back. And this is spelled out all through the Bible. Parable of the talents. Use what you have, gain more. Misuse or ignore what you have, and you lose. Not rocket science. These things make up a lot of my perspective. A long way away from perfection. I don't have much of I have some idea of what perfection may be like, but I don't see myself getting there very soon. and with every experience where I gain some more knowledge about myself, I'm getting a little bit closer. But how far I'm away, I don't know. But I enjoy where I am. I enjoy the way my life's going. I enjoy my own perspective. I appreciate my perspective. Learn to appreciate yours. Winston Cunningham. Thank you.